how are you, Joe? I haven't asked that question yet today, and you reminded me a bit earlier, so how are you?
George, you make it sound like we've just walked in the room. I'm absolutely fine, it's brilliant. We've been chatting a little bit, haven't we?
Yes, of course.
We have, and we're going to get some of that recorded. You know, I should return that. How are you?
I'm quite alright, my ear's feeling a bit better. For people who don't know, I've had an ear infection the last week. It's been quite painful, but it's starting to get on the mend. It's just really itchy now, which is really annoying, and I still can't wear a headphone on that ear, and I can't really listen at all on that ear. So I haven't really been able to work on anything. So I've had to put some clients, I'm doing some mixing fallback, which you know is always very annoying when you have to delay things for people.
It is.
So, yes, but in general, I'm feeling quite alright, thank you, Joe.
And that is a massive hint, a massive teaser as to what we're going to be talking about in a little while. George is, you're an amazing musician, composer, producer as well, and we've got some great news to share. But before we get on to that, something that you've been doing in the community throughout lockdown, Blacksall Buskers. Can you give us
the Blacksall Buskers?
Yeah.
Well, let's start with a bit of history first. I think it's always good to get a bit of backstory and a bit of context in there for those who do not know it. Blacksall Buskers Night has been around for around 4 odd years, I'd say. I don't think that's an exact date, but it's been around for quite a long amount of time. And where I live in a little small village called Blacksall. Please don't come and see me, but I live in a small village called Blacksall, and we have a pub there. It's a very nice pub. Well, it was. I'm not too much of a fan of the current landlords, but let's not get political here. So it's quite a nice pub. So it's a nice pub, and the old landlords, who we were very friendly with, they wanted to start a bus because there had been one like 10 years ago, but then things happen and they change, of course, don't they? So we were talked into, my mum and I, into setting up a Blacksall Buskers Night, and the face of this Blacksall Buskers Night would be Matt Bayfield, who you might know is quite a famous but unfortunately dead folk singer, and he was in a band. He passed away last year sometime, I can't remember when, but it was very sad and it was a pity. But he put that on with my mum being the soundsman for around 2 years, and after that he walked out. I'm not going to go into that story, but voices were raised. He quit him halfway through and was very, very unprofessional. But anyway, after that, there was a bit of a hiatus for a few months. And then Roger Miles, I think you might know Roger Miles, he's quite a nice, friendly man.
Yes.
He came in and he did it for a few months. And then with my mum, she was doing what she mostly does, is she's more administration in the busking, host. After that, we got Richard Harvey in, and this other bloke, but I'm not going to mention him because I've forgotten his name. But we got Richard Harvey in, and he would do 1 week, then the other would do the other back and forth. I can't remember if it was every week. I think it was still fortnightly, like it is at the minute. Well, not at the minute. We're on a hiatus for Christmas because it's always nice to take a Christmas break and sit down with family. I know not all of us have that pleasure. Some people might be living quite far away, and it must be horrible. Christmas is a time of being together with people, so it must be horrible if you can't see anyone in your family, and I really feel sorry for you, really. It is quite a sad thing. But to a lighter tone again, the busk. So Richard Harvey, good friend of mine and mum's, he was doing sound check with me. I was working with him a bit. I almost apprenticed with him. He was kind of the person who taught me my first kind of things about audio engineering. So that was very good. So I learned quite a lot from him. I still learn quite a bit now, but I also have been teaching him more about digital audio. His work's very analogue, and I, of course, am all in the box mostly.
Yes.
So
you say in the box. What, explain just what that means.
In the box means you're working in a computer.
Yes.
You're working inside a door with barely any outboard gear, so not really any real hardware. $5,000 compressors, for example, like the 1176 or whatnot.
Right.
Though I have had a few people contact me wanting me to buy an LA2A, but I'm not about to drop around $11,000 on one.
No. Another day.
Yeah.
But Blacksall Buskers.
The Blacksall Buskers now, yes, let's get back to the topic.
Now you find yourself in a position where I think there's had numerous people running it.
Yes, lots of people have done it over the years. Me and my mum, we've stayed constant, really. But Richard Harvey, he's a very important person because when we went into lockdown, the busk had been on a bit of a downward spiral anyway. Less and less people coming. And that was due to the management of the pub. I'm not going to be political, but really they are quite annoying and they ruined it. But Richard Harvey, halfway through lockdown, he kind of said to us, I really want to still do it.
Yes.
And I've got a few plans for it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you in on it? And we said yes, because a year prior to this, my mum was very unwell and she went into hospital and had to have a big operation. And at that time, Richard was thinking about starting his own TV studio.
Right.
And doing what we do now. So he'd been thinking about this for a year and ahead. So he'd already bought all the cameras and he'd got stuff set up so that by the time it came to lockdown, we already had half the equipment we needed.
Okay.
So at that point, we looked into things like Zoom. Because at the time we were still in lockdown, we couldn't go to a site, etc.
Yes.
And we found this awful site called StreamYard. It's a good concept, but what they do is when you send them their video, when they put it out to Facebook, they've lowered the quality by loads,
right.
audio and video.
Yeah.
So it didn't sound or look particularly good, which is unfortunate. So once we had stopped using them, it was thankfully almost the end of lockdown. We pretty much were allowed to go to his and run it as a proper studio at his, so we had it all set up. And it's amazing working there. What I do is I get all the footage that's coming in from the cameras, and I get all the audio source that's coming from his computer.
Yes.
Into the laptop, into OBS. OBS is broadcasting software which you use to stream and record video.
Yes.
Into there, and then streaming that out to Facebook and now YouTube. We're using Restream to do that. Very handy tool.
So it goes out on Facebook and YouTube at the same time, doesn't it?
At the same time,
yes. Which is what you want. You want to reach good numbers. So, I mean, your role is looking after the audio and, I mean, what else are you doing with it?
So I'm managing everything. So everyone's got their own jobs and everything's coming to me.
Yep.
I'm then making sure it all looks right, making sure it all sounds right, and then it's going out to the chat and to everyone who's watching. And then I'm moderating the chat, making sure people aren't being nasty or whatever, saying hello to people, stuff like that. So I'm managing that. I'm also managing what they're sending me, but I leave that to their own devices. Richard, he's a very good soundsman. He's been doing it for years and he's got all the equipment. So he's doing it in Ableton. We're tracking in Ableton, recording in Ableton. A lot of people seem to have some sort of opinion that you can't do acoustic music in Ableton, and I think this quite frankly proves them wrong. Ableton is a fantastic DAW and you could do it in any DAW really, but we choose Ableton. It's what we're comfortable with, and that's what we use. So we do it in there. We master it in Ableton quickly on the master channel, and then that mastered audio goes out through his RME interface into a Focusrite Scarlett interface we've got on my computer, into OBS, and then that's the audio we're using.
Sure.
And that's all synced up with the video cameras, which are going through a little box which allows us to change camera angles into the computer. Mm-hmm. So that's all synced up there, and then that's just going out to the world.
So 100%, but when you say that's just going out to the world, people watching that will go, wow, isn't this a great production, isn't this a great program? But anybody listening to what George has just explained there, that's the kind of effort that's going into this behind the scenes, right? It's you and it's Richard, did you say? And all the artists as well, and then the production with the cameras, the production with the audio.
We've got an absolutely fantastic camera woman. Glammy is the name she likes to go by. She's absolutely wonderful. I think she's got a degree in photography. She's wonderful with cameras, and she's behind these cameras, moving about, doing all the camera work, and it's amazing, really, and it does look fantastic.
I mean, it is, isn't it? I mean, it's as I say, all of that effort that goes in to deliver entertainment to people's homes, and you're doing that, George, and you're a huge part of why that's working. I know the Blacksville Buskers events are very popular, but a bit of a hiatus at the moment. But how could anybody watch it when you're back?
Well, when we're back, it'll be streaming to both Facebook, our Facebook page, the Blacksville Buskers Night, and to our YouTube channel. I don't know when this is going out, but hopefully when this is going out, we will have 100 subscribers, and that allows us to have a custom URL. So if by the time this goes out we have 100 subs, it'll be youtube.com/user/ the Blacksville Buskers Night. If not, if we haven't got that, just go on YouTube and type in Blacksville Buskers Night, and you'll be able to find art page. And what we've been doing, because we're on holiday at the minute, we have been, Richard Harvey, our video editor and audio producer, he's been getting all the clips, the 2 hour long productions, he's been cutting them up into little one song productions, and every single day, whilst we're on hiatus, there's a video going up, so people still have content to watch.
Yes.
And it is replays, but still, it's nice to be able to have them, and they're doing fairly well, I think.
That's good. That's good. So anybody that's watched the event live can watch later on if there's something they particularly enjoyed. George, let's take the plane and ignore that email notification. Let's take the plane and steer and fly towards, well, maybe the runway of music production. And you, as a producer, artist, composer, what do you like to call yourself of those things? What's the one thing?
I often call myself a producer, other times an audio engineer.
Yeah.
I just kind of call myself a producer, really. I'd say I'd go with producer most often. That's the thing I kind of do the most, composing and producing. Absolutely.
This leads us on to some fantastic news, because you've composed some music, lots of music actually, and you've played that on iRock to some of the kids that are on there that you've worked alongside. Being creative, of course, throughout the whole of lockdown, and being a great example, George, of how if you put your mind to it and really give it everything, you can achieve some great results. Tell us about this news, because you've just signed something, haven't you?
Well, in lockdown, I wrote this song. It was a singlet song, and I sent this to a record label, and they were very, very happy with it. They really liked it, and so they said, do us 2 more and we'll release an EP. So I've done 2 more, sent it to them, and they've signed it. They sent me a record contract and I signed it, and it's amazing, really. I don't have a release date yet, which is really unfortunate. I was hoping coming into this I'd know when it would be out, but they've just released a song and it's hit number 30 on the Beatport top 100 charts for the genre, so that's really good.
That's excellent.
For the specific genre alone, for only that genre, I think it's on like position number 10 or something.
Wow.
So it's a release that's done really well for them, so I'm really excited about being signed to them.
I'm excited for you, bud. That's absolutely fantastic news. So what's the single called again, in case anyone's missed that?
The single, my single, the one they've just released.
The one that's doing well?
The one that's doing well, it's an EP. For the life of me, cannot remember the name of it at the minute, but it's by a Swedish artist called Bishwicki and this other lady, I can't remember her name.
Okay, so this label has various other artists that are doing well, right?
Yes.
And you being involved with that's good rub, right? Like, you want that.
Yeah.
You need to be.
The biggest artist is the owner of the label. He's quite well known on YouTube, and he does tutorials, and he started this label for things like this a few years ago.
So it's an independent, right?
Yeah, it's an independent label. It's not got a parent company as far as I'm aware. They have been releasing tracks for like 3 odd years. They've been around for a little bit, but they're doing really, really well. And they've got some quite big upcoming artists on it, and I thankfully have just been signed to it. So it's a release deal, so it's only for this EP. Right. But then I'll probably send them 1 or 2 more, and then I might be looking at some other. Depends, really, it really depends.
Yeah.
I personally do think a lot of people nowadays, they say, oh, record labels, you shouldn't release on them, there's no need to. I personally believe there is still a need to release on record labels, because even though I mostly distribute my music myself using DistroKid, but signing with a label, yes, they do take a cut over royalties. I can't disclose the case on recording, but they take a cut. But they do give you promotion and some other benefits. I think I can mention the other benefits because other people can see them as well. One of them is that the release becomes exclusive on Beatport. Now that sounds quite bad, but in reality, that means for the first 2, 4, 8 weeks, depending on what the label picks, the release will only be on 3 platforms: Beatport, iTunes, and Spotify. Okay. So it'll be exclusive on those 3 platforms for 2 weeks, I think, is the amount. Yeah. And that means the song will cost a bit more on Beatport. Okay. But we get more, and it gets more traction, etc. So it can really get the opportunity to grow, So that's really good. Yeah, and of course it'll be on Spotify and iTunes, and it'll be on a few playlists, hopefully. My other releases that I've done, slightly different genre. This is a more kind of upbeat, peak time combination, deep drawn melodic techno. Whilst I normally do more dub and deep techno.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to cover the genre that you're into, because when you say Blackswell, the Blackswell Buskers night, that's perhaps more acoustic artists.
Completely different.
Double bass, acoustic guitar. So people might have this picture, George is signed to, release a new folk album or something. But no, that's not the case. It's techno, right?
Yeah, techno. Different forms of techno I do. Very different to what the Blackswell Buskers night does, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
But I like doing all different genres, and I like working with all different genres. I think, yes, I produce one genre, but I always like to take different aspects from other stuff. Recently, I've been writing a song but heavily inspired by traditional folk Japanese music.
Okay.
So I've been using different scales that you would normally only find in Japan. I can't remember the exact name, or pronounce it for that matter, but it's quite interesting. It only has 6 notes in it, I believe.
Right.
And it sounds very, very melodic, but also very cinematic and deep. It's quite an interesting melody I've written of this scale. And it's quite interesting. I like combining different genres into my music. I often like to try and bring more cinematic orchestral elements into my dance productions equally.
So, can I ask somebody listening to this who perhaps is like yourself, young producer, maybe not a young producer, maybe a producer's just a little bit stuck and like, oh my gosh, what would I do? Where do you start? You open up your computer. What's your inspiration? I mean, you've mentioned the Japanese scale, so I should imagine that's going to give you some inspiration. That's going to steer the track in a different direction. But what would your advice be to someone? They've opened up Ableton or whatever it is they're using. What would you give as advice?
I think that is a very good question. And it's something I get asked a lot by different people on my Instagram, etc. But what I always recommend is you set up a template.
Okay.
So every time you open up your DAW of choice, you have the mixer set up how you'd like it. So in Ableton I have it set up with a reference track, so I can always reference my mix when I'm mixing against a more professional piece. I have a group bus for my kicks, one for my snares, one for my other percussion like hi-hats, etc. I have one for synths, bass, and then effects. And on those tracks, I have a few effects on some of the drums, the synths and the effects. I put nothing on there, but in Ableton they have a really good thing where you have this collection, so you can put different plugins you use into these different collections. So I can just go into that collection, say, oh, I know I've got all my synths in here, I want that one, and just grab it quickly instead of having to go to the plugins, scroll through hundreds and hundreds. Your mileage may vary with that depending how many plugins you get, and then pick it. I have quite a lot. I work with all different companies and they often send me free ones. I recently received this morning a new Jupiter 8 synth from Tau. It's a very nice recreation, so I'm doing a video with them over the next few weeks. It's taking a while because I decided, because if you don't know, I do plugin reviews on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, don't gloss over that too much, because you were like up on one of the top trending ones, right?
Yeah, I was really trending. One of my videos is very trending on that, so it's gotten like 1,000 views or something, which is quite a lot for me. I've only got almost 200 subscribers, so it's really good for me. So different plugin companies, they often send me different things to review, and I have only in the past done audio effects, and I've done one drum VST, which is a bit weird. I'm not going to go into that. So I've mostly only received audio effects, and I wanted to do some synthesizers and some other plugins like that. So I reached out to the company and I said, I want to do a review on this, but I want to do it my way. I don't want to just say, oh, it's good, play a few things. I've been thinking about doing it where I make an entire track where the only synthesizer is that synth that you've given me.
Right.
So the kick drums, that will be something else. That will be a sample from Production Music Live or whatever. Hi-hats the same, but all the synths, all the melodic elements will be with that one synthesizer. And they really like that idea, because if someone can prove that you can do that, customers are more likely to get that synth, because they know it is possible to make a track from it.
Which has all the elements, the lows, the mids, the highs.
So it's something that I've started to work on this. I'm working on a few other tracks at the minute, and tomorrow's my birthday, so I'm going to take a bit of time off.
Sorry,
But-
you kept that quiet. Tomorrow's your birthday.
Yes,
A special one? How old are you?
15.
15, and I'm sure people listening to this might be shocked to know you're only 15, George, and you've accomplished so much already. That's really, really awesome. We should perhaps, like I say, we've steered the plane down to the runway. We're now about to land. Let's put those brakes on. What else shall we mention? Anything else?
I never did finish the template thing, did I? I was talking about that.
That's all right.
I went off and on. So the template, I think it's really, really important that you get a template set up.
Yes.
Because before, it would normally take me 30 minutes just setting up Ableton how I wanted it.
Which puts you off, right?
Yeah. So having a template with everything set up how I wanted it speeds up my workflow so much. I can open up Ableton and I can have in session view, not a lot of DAWs have this, but Ableton has a session view and arrangement view.
Yes.
Session view, it's a mixer, but you can also kind of do live sets, and it's a bit confusing to explain really. You kind of have to know it to know it, but I like using that to sketch ideas.
Okay.
So I pretty much have a fully sketched peak/drop of a track, all sketched out in around 30 minutes.
Yes.
Arranging, that takes around 2 hours. A lot of people, they say, oh, it takes me 20 hours to do one song. For me, I can get a full song label ready signed in around 8 hours maximum.
That's terrific. That's absolutely terrific. So, lots more to come from you in the future, I'm sure, George. But that's an excellent chat. Absolutely wonderful. I just want to say thank you very much for your time.
It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me on.
No worries at all. Man, take care. We'll catch you soon.
Goodbye.